We'll call the meeting to order. This is a special commission meeting to hear budget requests from various organizations. We'll note that Commissioner Steiner and Frenzel are absent. All other commissioners are present. We have no other business scheduled but to hear these funding requests. And we'll begin with Sunrise Youth Bureau, and representing Sunrise Youth Bureau is Jerry Mayer. So welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners. Again, my name is Jerry Mayer. I'm the Director of the Sunrise Youth Bureau, and with me I have Amber Reisenhauer, who is our youth educator at the Youth Bureau. First of all, on behalf of the Board of Directors, of which Sean Kessel is a member, by the way, and the staff, let me take this opportunity to thank you for your past support of the Sunrise Youth Bureau. The Sunrise Youth Bureau continues to provide much-needed services to youth and their families in the areas of diversion, prevention, and education. But the key component I would like to address today is the continuing need for housing for youth who are picked up by law enforcement personnel due to a family dispute, run away from home, out past curfew, alcohol, unable to locate their parents, and numerous other reasons. Our staff is readily available 24 hours a day to assist our local law enforcement officers to bring these youth to the Bureau and have the officers return to their duties as quickly as possible. We are the only agency in southwest North Dakota that provides this service. Funding for this service is reimbursable on a dollar-for-dollar basis through the North Dakota Association of Counties for up to 2 days or 48 hours. The North Dakota Association of Counties receives their funding through a federal grant. In 2012, the Association of Counties received $600,000 to equally distribute among 11 attendant care sites throughout North Dakota. We were recently notified that in 2013, the North Dakota Association of Counties has been notified that this amount is being reduced to $400,000, which still has to be equally divided among 11 sites. This is a $200,000 reduction in the state of North Dakota. This reduction in federal funding will have a severe impact on how we are going to continue to provide this essential service to our law enforcement partners. We need to continue to assist our law enforcement with a place to house these youth until a decision can be made as whether they can be returned home or removed from their home or placed elsewhere in another situation. Without this service, law enforcement personnel would have to make a decision as whether they would house these youth. Would they keep them at the law enforcement center? Would they have an officer watch over them until a decision is made, until their parents are located? If this happens, this would mean that an officer would have to watch them, leaving one less officer out on parole. By being a partner agency with our local law enforcement, we are able to allow our officers to spend more time protecting our citizens and not having to worry about watching these youth. With your support, we can continue to provide this essential service. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any questions? When you look at your present situation versus 1 and 2 years ago, what can you say about the workload? Is it growing, staying the same, declining?
Mr. President, our workload is increasing. We did some little bit of research on that, and we figured that we have, over the last year, have gone up 20% in the number of clients that we are seeing. Of course, some of these are all related, some are not. Some are related because some, as Amber and I were talking about today, local people that have gotten jobs out in the oil field are being away from home for a longer period of time, which puts more stress on the family, which obviously affects the children. So we are seeing a definite increase, not just from people coming in, but from our local citizens as well, due to different impacts that have on that. So yeah, we're seeing an increase in the number of kids we see all the time. Keeps going up.
With your increase in your workload and looking at your 2013 budget, you're going to have an $18,000 difference. How have you and your board started to address that, or what other sources or streams of revenue are you looking at?
Well, we are having a board meeting actually in next week, and one of the things that we are going to be doing is going back out to the counties again, talking to the county commissioners, seeing if they are willing to help offset some of these costs and whether they are willing to go up a little bit on their mill levies or donations or areas like that. We don't know what they are going to do yet, obviously. If we don't get any increases, obviously, then the next step would be we'd have to cut back on some of our services that we can't afford to provide. It's very expensive for us to keep a kid at the Youth Bureau. I just want to say that, and that's where most of our cost comes from. And the reason is when law enforcement calls myself or Amber at 2 or 3 in the morning and say, hey, Jerry, we got this 12-year-old kid that needs a place to stay, our staff is readily available, but to have them come in, you know, depending on what range of salary they're in, most of them are between $11 and $15 an hour. And when they're there 24 hours a day, you can see how that cost just gets out of hand real quick. So we try to get them out there as quickly as we can. We try to get them placed as quickly as we can, but they can be there anywhere from a couple hours up to 2 weeks. Well, you know, that's an exorbitant cost, and when we look at how much we're getting reimbursed for that, it's just not equating out to what we need.
With the oil impact on the workforce, have you been able to maintain your staff?
Yes, sir. We have been doing okay. We've been doing okay as far as our staff. Most of our part-time staff, which is the people that watch the children, have been with us for probably over 5-6 years, so they're staying with us. They're not leaving.
Okay.
What's your biggest challenge moving forward, other than finance, I guess?
Our biggest challenge is finding places to take care of kids when there's just not a lot of availability in North Dakota with foster care, with placement options, not just keeping them there, but finding a place for them to go so that we can move them readily on to the next available place which is best for them. And in Southwest North Dakota, there's a tremendous need for foster care. Our placing agencies like Home on the Range, Eckerd up in Williston, Charles Hall and Bismarck are fairly full all the time. So finding a place that will house these kids after they leave us is a big challenge. I mean, it's just a tremendous. And as the older they get, you know, when they get to be 15, 16, 17 years old, it's very difficult to find anybody that really wants to have that responsibility for taking care of them.
Anything else? Anything you'd want to add?
No, we appreciate your support. I'm sure that I hope you all got a copy of our 2011 annual report. We did mail one to all commissioners, so I hope you had a chance to review that. And again, on behalf of the board of directors and staff, we just want to say thank you for your previous support, and hopefully we can continue that, and we can keep our law enforcement personnel on the street and give them a place to house our kids that need it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we're going to hear from Representative Dickinson State University regarding the Theodore Roosevelt Symposium, and representing Dickinson State is Sharon Kilzer. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, President Johnson, Commissioners. My name is Sharon Kilzer. I'm the project manager for the Theodore Roosevelt Center at Dickinson State University. I'm here today to thank the City of Dickinson for past support of the annual Theodore Roosevelt Symposium and to report on the fruits of that investment. I'll also request continued support at the same level of funding provided in the past of $20,000. In the midst of all the growth that's happening in our community, many demands are being placed on our resources and our time and our energies. But at the same time, we have many opportunities to invest in our future. Not only the physical infrastructure and housing and those kinds of amenities that our community has to offer, but also the cultural institutions and the opportunities that we can provide. The Theodore Roosevelt Center is one of those institutions that will be part of the fabric of this community for years to come. As many of you know, the Theodore Roosevelt Center is creating a presidential library for Theodore Roosevelt in the digital realm. Our website, trcenter.org, allows you to read TR's diaries and letters in his own hand, to look at the fascinating and often amusing political cartoons of his era, among many other items. And our work is gaining recognition across the nation because the Theodore Roosevelt Digital Presidential Library is unique and groundbreaking in many ways. We're the only presidential project that is making every individual item of a president searchable and accessible online. Individual citizens, whether they're living here in Dickinson or our region, or at a distance somewhere around the country, have the opportunity to contribute to the project by reading the materials and describing them to make them searchable by others. Also, we're located in a less populated area, although that's changing in these days. But in a real sense, we have a greater reach than the presidential libraries around the country because ours is available online. So when we were designing our website, we made use of the imagery of Western North Dakota and the Badlands to ensure that every visitor to the site gets introduced to this place that inspired Theodore Roosevelt. We hope many of them will be inspired to visit us as well. And the annual Theodore Roosevelt Symposium is a great opportunity for them to do that. To review last year's symposium then, our theme was Theodore Roosevelt in the Arena of the West. Many of us know those stories about TR's time here, but we had the unique opportunity to host the National Theodore Roosevelt Association for their annual meeting. They have a 92-year history. We have just 7, and so that was a real privilege to have them join us for that event. We had 168 attendees from outside the state of North Dakota. Many of them were first-time visitors here. 35 states were represented among those. And we had some of the top scholars in the nation. Pulitzer Prize-winning Roosevelt biographer Edmund Morris was among our speakers, as well as best-selling author Douglas Brinkley. To get the two of them in the same event is really remarkable. In addition to those, we also had the most recent biographer of TR's time here, Roger D. Silvestro, and his explication of TR's experiences here and how it influenced his later career was very well received by our guests. When we did our participant evaluations last fall, we did something a little different. We asked people not just what they thought of various talks, speakers, activities. We asked them specifically, what did you learn? And I've provided a few of the comments in the materials I've passed out here. I'll highlight just a couple of those. First of all, talking about what they learned about TR. One said, after visiting North Dakota, I could better understand TR's love for the place. Another guest commented, this was my first visit to North Dakota. It was extremely important to see the landscape, to understand. Then I'll skip down among those that I've provided to you. I think it's on page 2 of your handouts if you're following those. Some of our guests commented saying it's a good job to all. North Dakota looked great to all participants. And finally, the program was very well done. It left me with a very positive impression of TR's West. So this is the work we're doing. These are the results of the symposium. In addition to the economic benefit of the money that is spent here by our guests, we're winning many friends and garnering great goodwill for Dickinson and our community. This fall, the city is again among the symposium sponsors. Our theme is Theodore Roosevelt, the Progressive in the Arena. In this election year, it's also the 100th anniversary of the most successful third-party run in American history. Theodore Roosevelt was the standard bearer of that party, the Progressive Party. But he was at odds with other movements that seemed to promote similar ideals, such as the Nonpartisan League, which was founded here in North Dakota a few years later. Given his love for this place, his opposition to the NPL is really striking. And so during the symposium this fall, we will consider how progressive Roosevelt was, what he truly believed about the role of government in society. That's a question that we continue to wrestle with, and it's particularly important, again, in this election year. So we encourage and invite you to put this on your calendars, September 20th to 22nd. Registration is already available at the website, trcenter.org. Now, to move on to our request, this is for the symposium in the fall of 2013. TR and American Culture is going to be our theme. And we really are excited about this. We think it's going to broaden the interest among our own community and from those around the nation. We know, many people know that TR was very well read, and he was interested in many things, but some of those things are less well known. One of them was, for instance, the simplified spelling movement. Now, TR was not a great speller, so perhaps that's understandable, but he actually advocated changing our whole spelling system, and he implemented it for government documents for a short period of time. It didn't take, fortunately or unfortunately, depending where you fall on spelling, but among his interests as well was art. You know, when we think about TR, we don't often think about art. But he was interested in the arts. He supported artists and poets and writers. There was one particular exhibit in New York of modern art, and I've provided you a picture from that exhibit. It's called, well, let me just give you TR's comments about it that I think are interesting. He says, it's the picture on the left, on the last slide on page 3 of your handout. TR says, take the picture which for some reason is called a naked man going downstairs. There is in my bathroom a really good Navajo rug which, on any proper interpretation of the Cubist theory, is a far more satisfactory and decorative picture. Now, if for some inscrutable reason it suited somebody to call this rug a picture of, say, a well-dressed man going up a ladder, the name would fit the facts just about as well as in the case of the Cubist picture of the naked man going downstairs. So I think we're going to have some fun with this, talking about TR and culture. We're going to talk about his relationship to football, to the media, political cartooning of his day. Again, I think this is going to broaden our reach both here, locally, and across the nation, and so we're very excited. That's the request that's before you for funding today. As I close my remarks, I want to express in the words of Theodore Roosevelt, hearty thanks to the City of Dickinson for supporting this event in the past. My sincere hope is that that support will continue, and I will now entertain any questions you might have.
Thank you, Sharon. Any questions or comments?
Have you applied in the past, and are you applying now to the Convention and Visitors Bureau for their special funding for events that bring outside people into the community?
Yeah, Commissioner Oltmans, we did that 2 or 3 years ago, but we have not done it recently. If you wished us to do so, we'd be happy to.
That would be great.
In that
yeah, I
cycle.
think it'd be a whole nother funding resource for you.
Sure.
Anything else? I think several months ago, or maybe even more than a year ago, there was some talk of moving this event to the spring of the year. Is that still a possibility, or, because I heard you say fall of 2013, so
Yes.
this is scheduled for the fall of 2013?
Yeah, at Dickinson State University, there was a lot of discussion about that. It was our intention to do so. The National Theodore Roosevelt Association was very interested in our moving out of the fall because they hold their national meeting in the fall. However, being part of an academic institution, anyone who knows the spring calendar of scholarship banquets and end-of-year performances by music and theater and athletic competitions in the spring, it was deemed unworkable for us as an institution to move the event to the spring, and that's the reason you see it back in the fall.
Okay, yeah.
We'll stay as far as we can from the National Theodore Roosevelt Association event within the bounds of our needs here as a community.
Okay, and they're typically in October,
They are.
PR Association?
They are. They schedule as close to Theodore Roosevelt's birthday as they can usually. That is October 27th. However, in 2013, they are going to Buffalo, New York, the site of TR's inauguration on the death of President McKinley. And because he was inaugurated on September 14th, they are using that anniversary date. And
Okay.
so ours is more likely to be in probably mid-October in 2013.
Okay. Anything else? All right, well, thank you for
Yeah.
being here.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is from Southwest Community Service, and presenting is Tony Marasco. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Yep, it's Tony Morosco, and I have been the program coordinator working by myself for the last 3 years. I've been with the program for almost 11 years now. Southwest Community Service covers about 10,000 square miles. We have referrals that come from district, municipal, juvenile, parole and probation, Sunrise, Adams, Billings, Bowman, Dunn, Hettinger, Slope, Golden Valley, and Stark County. Now with the oil boom, I have them coming from Africa, from New York, from Colorado, from Utah. It's just unbelievable. I have lawyers calling every day to get somebody in to do UAs and community service, getting parole and probation assigned over in this area. And with that, I have just been so busy. The UAs have like quadrupled than they did a year ago.
What's a UA again?
A drug test.
A drug test, okay.
Yes. Yeah, drug screening. And right now, if anybody's incarcerated, a condition of their bond, they have to come in twice a week for random drug screening. So they didn't used to do that, but they started that about a year ago as a condition of their bond. So went from maybe making $250 a year from drug screening to about $7,000. And that's a lot of drug tests in the mornings. And now with this oil boom, I have so many people from out of state that, we're making arrangements with them to come in. And we just charge $20 a test, so it's not a whole lot of money, but it adds up. We've been in business for 18 years. All of our funding that we get comes from the cities and the counties. We have a small funding that we still get from the Department of Corrections, but kind of every other year we don't know if we're going to get it. We just basically, what we get is from the cities and the counties, and we appreciate everything that we do get. I would like to think that the work sites that we send the offenders to teach both life and employment skills, since there is several people over the last few years that have gotten some good jobs after they've completed their community service at the job site. Especially community action weatherization is really good, because if they have 700 hours to do, they're pretty much trained by the time that they're done. And a lot of the kids get summer jobs at Able. We send them there to kind of show them how, good they have it and not to complain about life. And I've had several kids end up working there for their summertime. And this year I would like to ask for $5,000. I know we got $2,500, happy with it, happy with whatever we get. We used to get some funding from juvenile support services, but we don't get anything now, no funding from juvenile. So it's kind of just dwindling. So every dime we get comes from counties and the cities. And we like to think of it as kind of an alternative to incarceration for low-risk, nonviolent offenders. Like I have a lot of people with DUIs right now. Instead of spending 5 days in jail, they do 240 hours of community service. And that saves on taxpayers' money, and it's cheaper to do that than put them in jail for 5 days. And also, social services uses for drug testing now too. They sometimes need a on-the-spot drug test, and they'll send somebody over to do a drug screening. When I sent in my information, I put in my budget. It was, with two of us working, it was about $70,000, but I got it down to right at about $50,000, about $49,358 is what we ran last year on it. And that's just being really frugal about everything.
What, when you put somebody into community service, typically give us one or two typical community service projects that they might
Well,
be involved in.
I got a phone call from Elder Care the other day. They were just desperate to get somebody to pull weeds. So I had a couple young men come in yesterday, and of course they didn't want to go pull weeds, but I told them that's what my openings were yesterday, was pulling weeds.
Uh-huh.
And they went over and pulled weeds, and I got a call today, and Colleen had told me that they did a really good job for her. I just got another young lady done with Best Friends, working on their recycling and emptying bins. Community Action Weatherization, they go with the group of men on their, if they go out of town to Bowman or Hettinger, they're learning different skills. I had a young man last year that kept getting suspended from school, and I had it set up at Community Action Weatherization that every time he was suspended, instead of going over to Sunrise and watching TV, that he was put to work. And the young man ended up really enjoying it. Dale Barth works with the kids there, and he said the kids seemed like he really enjoyed it. But every time he got suspended, we sent him over there. Mm-hmm. And they do they insulate, they install things and doors, and they're kind of gophers, but yet they're learning something.
Tony, I have a question. On the year analysis test that you do, and you're charging $20 per test, are you receiving those funds then from the people that you're testing?
They have to pay up front, cash only.
Okay, so if you've gone from 250 tests a year to about 7,000 would generate about $140,000 a year in revenue. So walk me through that.
No, we made $6,000.
Made 6,000.
Yeah.
Okay, I had heard it as you were conducting
No.
7,000 tests, and I was going,
how
how
could ask for a raise?
Exactly.
I haven't asked for one in 3 years, and the cost of living's going up. But
how did you arrive at your $20? I know that most of the other places in town are charging $25, even up to $50.
they are. Some of them are about 45. We kind of just go by. We're kind of in an association with other, like with Grand Forks, Jamestown, Bismarck, and we kind of go by what they're charging for drug testing. And actually, the $20 is really cheap. I know if they don't go through, in Bismarck, they don't do drug testing there. They have to get it done somewhere else, and I think it's almost $60 a shot for them.
Right. So have you considered adjusting your price on?
Well, I have to have a board meeting. I'm going to try, in fact, I just sent a memo off to have at the end of the month, because the drug testing went up in price, so I'm going to see if we can up that price to about $25.
Yeah.
But it's really hard, a lot of these people don't have jobs, and I have to hear about it every day, and how they don't have the $20, and they have to have the $20 or they get sent back to court.
Right. Have you contracted with any of the oil companies or anybody to do their drug testing, since you're doing it on a daily basis, or does that not fit your business model?
Most of the drug testing for, they do it on site there.
Sure.
Yeah, I have talked to them. And I know, now I'm going to pronounce this wrong, there's an oil place right next to me, Mysalco or something, I don't know what it is, but they do drug testing there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I also wanted to talk to at our board is maybe doing it for some of the businesses in town that.
Sure.
Because almost everybody needs a drug test now before they can start work.
Right.
I mean, I think even at Dan's Supermarket, they have to take a drug test.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about, looking at your budget, it looks like almost half of your income comes from cities and counties.
Right.
And your note says that there are 8 participants.
Yep, there's, well, actually, I have Golden Valley County and then Golden Valley City. the beach city. And I have Stark County and Dickinson City. And let me see if I counted that.
What I'm curious about is, it looks like there's 8 of them.
There's 8 counties,
8 counties plus additional cities.
plus 2 cities.
So there are 10 total?
Yeah.
Okay, so that works out to about $2,300 for each, but I suppose some are paying more than that?
They range anywhere from, 2,500 down to 850. Some of them that really surprised me is like Slope County. I may only get 1 or 2 of their people a year, and they're pretty good with their funding for us.
But
And we try to make it that if they're in trouble in that county, they have to do their community service in that county. And I do get calls all the time from different places that need some help, and if it's a non-for-profit organization, we can send them there.
But it sounds like 2,500 is the most you're getting from any city or county?
No, the Stark County, I believe last year was 7,500.
Okay. Thank you.
You mentioned, you're seeing more out-of-state people. Do they come from out-of-state, get in trouble here, and then have to do community service? Or do they come from out-of-state where they've already been in trouble and they have to complete community service?
The majority of them that come in were already in trouble when they came here.
Okay.
And they're on parole and probation, they've got community service to do, they have to take drug tests, and when they're from, like, out of state like that, every time they do a drug test, I have to, fax over the results to them, and I have had some that have gotten in trouble when they've gotten here. Lately, I've been subpoenaed to court several times I've been having a lot of dirty UAs coming in from, and a lot of them are from people that are moved in here on the oil. And even though they know they have to come in for a drug test, they're still testing positive for things, and
Okay.
they get to go back to court.
Typically, what happens to them then?
They usually get rearrested, and they have to bond out again. And I noticed the men take it, but the ones I've sat in with the women, they cry the whole time. So
Okay.
I go, please don't do that to us women. Don't cry. And the judge doesn't care.
No. Sure he doesn't. Okay, so it's, you're definitely seeing oil impact.
Oh, big time.
In what you're doing, big time, okay.
Yeah, plus they're all living in the back of the lot where I work too.
Really?
Yeah, the police moved them a couple weeks ago, and then one of them got a couch out of the mall, and he has a nice little setup with the couch, and he had his little box of pillows and some food, and Clarence Toohey happened to drop in, and I showed it to him, and then I noticed he was gone the next day, but then he was living in one of those trailers that don't have any windows in them or not. They use the bathrooms in the hallway in there. The police get him out of there, and then a few days later, they're back again. I used to go to work about 30 minutes early, and now I just wait till 8 o'clock when everybody else is there. I get a little spooked.
And so when did that type of activities first start?
The campers, they started in the fall time. I started noticing it in the fall time. They were just
fall.
full. And then they get run off, and then a few days later, 1 or 2 are back, and then 3 or 4,
Okay.
and I know that they're using the bathrooms that we have, because they're in and out. I watch them.
Okay. Interesting times.
It is.
Any other questions by commissioners?
No?
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, just that I appreciate for anything you decide to give us.
Okay, well, thank you for being here.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, next we'll hear from the Rough Rider Commission, and Corey Thompson is representing them. And Mr. Thompson, you have a tough act to follow after that last presentation.
Yes, I do. Again, I'm Corey Thompson. I'm the president of the Rough Rider Commission currently. I guess I don't know what the process is here, but we submitted an application, so you're probably aware of the dollar amount that we are requesting. Is that?
Can you refresh it for the people that are watching this as well?
It was $250,000. And what we were requesting is money for new bleachers with overhead canopy on basically 2/3 of it at the rodeo grounds at DSU's property. I guess if anybody wants to look at the drawings, Cadamus, Lee, and Jackson has come up with a drawing and a budget for us. Tentative budget, I guess, until it gets bid out. We don't really know exactly what it will be.
What is the expected budget, Mr. Thompson?
The last one we had, and again, it's right around $800,000.
And what will the seating capacity be?
It is just short of 3,300 seats. It's actually 3,224.
And are all the seats under the canopy then?
No, about 2/3 of it, it would just, the canopy would run north-south. Actually, the bleachers would be basically the same configuration as they are now, and the canopy would be over the section that is running north and south.
What's your seating capacity now?
I believe it's around 2,500.
Okay.
The days that we notice that is on Derby Day. We have to bring in several bleachers and set them up, and it's, at that point, I know that we're over 3,000 during Derby Day. I want to say around 2,500.
Okay.
How do you anticipate the balance of the 800,000 is going to be made up?
The county has committed 500,000 at this point with some conditions put on the Rough Rider Commission. That's basically having an agreement in writing between the Rough Rider Commission and DSU.
Will DSU be providing some funding on it as well?
No, they will not.
What-
They are basically just offering the land to us for use. And in my understanding, this has been going on for 25 years. The Rough Rider Days has been held at in this area. And I don't know, it's probably going to continue there.
What are kind of the major points that would be covered in this agreement between your commission and DSU?
Basically that we have the right to be there, and if anything ever happens that we need to move, we still would own the bleachers, the pans, all the equipment would still be owned by the Rough Rider Commission and could actually be picked up and moved.
Okay.
And I guess the biggest reason why we're doing this is basically we are on borrowed time with the bleachers we have right now. They're getting extremely hard to be insured. We're kind of basically grandfathered in, but it's definitely a safety hazard right now. Every year we go through and replace boards, and we do our due diligence to make sure that everybody is safe. Luckily, we've not had an accident there yet. There's been kids that have, climbed through and fell and got hurt, but nothing major at this point. But I guess our fear is that it can happen, and every year that goes by, the chances, I think, increase. And I guess this facility is used by more than just the Rough Rider Commission during the rodeo that we put on in the Derby. The high school uses it for their events. The 4-H uses it. College uses it Shodio, which was held last weekend, use it. So there's several different organizations that use this facility more than just the Rough Rider Commission.
And what's your kind of hope for construction schedule?
Well, I guess we'd like to see this in place by the 4th of July next year. Actually, before that, the high school has their events over Memorial Day, and we would like to see that by Memorial Day of 2013.
And how close are you to having this agreement with Dickinson State?
Actually, pretty close. I tried to get an update from Dr. Costin this morning. He's on vacation, so I was hoping to have a better update for you, but we met probably 3 weeks ago, and nothing seems to move real fast, but we were hoping within 2 months we'd have it.
Are you, well, I guess I don't know if you're able to, are you able to sell naming rights or sell seats or do anything like they did with the Badlands Activity Center to generate more revenue for
Well,
the seating?
possibly. You know, we do a lot of fundraising to be, you know, just to put our events on,
Right.
you know, and I don't know how much more we could do. Not that we're going to rule that out, but we already ask a lot, and I guess we have not talked about that.
Baker Hughes grandstand or
Oh, we,
something?
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you for
All right,
being here.
thank you.
Tina, I assume we're running ahead of schedule, are we?
Yes, I believe domestic violence was scheduled for 2.
Okay. Well, we'll take a short break here and then until our next presenter arrives, so.
Mr. President, do we know, are there any of these items that we know we are not going to have presenters?
The last 2, Arts on the Prairie and Stark County Victim Witness, will not have presentations. So I could certainly go over what they've given us, if you'd like.
Well, we
Break.
could, instead of taking a break, if you want to go through Arts on the Prairie and Stark County Victim Witness Program, Tina.
I see Darian walking in now too, so
Well,
it'd be good.
let's do one of them,
Yeah.
at least.
Arts on the Prairie was unable to be here to do their presentation. They are requesting $10,000. They have received $8,000 in the past. According to their application, the money would be to support their annual programming, which includes the Bandshell Concert Series and the Missoula Children's Theater. And they have been a recipient over the last several years.
Okay. Are there any comments regarding Arts on the Prairie? All right, well, why don't you do the Stark County Victim Witness Program?
Okay. First,
Excuse me, before we move on, do you know, Tina, why they're, I see last year they asked for what they got. Do you know why they're asking for an increase? Arts on the Prairie?
I do not.
I can speak to that. You know, the last couple of years, because the budget was so tight with the city, the Arts on the Prairie just kept with their $8,000 budget, even though the cost of putting on the Bandshell series and the Missoula Children's Theater costs have gone up. And so they had tapped into some of their reserves in the past to cover that gap, and their reserves are running low. So in order to continue with the free concert series at the the band shell, the increase is needed for that.
Okay.
Any other comments on, or questions on Arts on the Prairie? All right, well, let's do this. Stark County Witness Program.
For the Stark County Victim Witness, the contact person for that is Linda Pressler. They are requesting $15,000. This would be a new subsidy. I believe they have requested money in the past but haven't been funded under this subsidy. They do receive monies from the city, which are actually the reimbursement. Anytime anybody goes to court, they can be assessed a fine for victim witness. If they're assessed that fine and they pay that fine, that money then we turn over to that program. So on the spreadsheet that I had sent you, there is about $5,875 was given to them in 2011. That was just court-ordered fines that we received and then transferred to victim witness, just so you're aware. This $15,000, I believe, would be in addition to that, because she does show in her financials both the $15,000 request and money that's the city and county court fees in her financial report. So I believe this would be separate from those funds.
I think a few years back, we used to fund them for $5,000 or $6,000, something like that, but with some of the increases in the other programs, we decided rather than kind of fund them all a little bit, we concentrated our funding in fewer programs, and this was one that we left out.
Correct.
I don't have any real particular knowledge of this program other than what we've heard from budget hearings in the past. Are either of you guys involved with this one? Okay. Normally, our people in law enforcement, speak to like the Sunrise Youth Bureau and domestic violence and community service program, the victim witness program, and I think they've kind of ranked them in terms of effectiveness in the past for us. So, at future budget meetings, if we can get Chief Dossinger to comment on these programs, that's usually helpful.
Excuse me, Tina, you think this 15,000 is in their budget?
I just wanted to point out that if you look at their financials, I believe they have a line for city, county court fees. I believe that's the same money that we are already turning over to them. Okay. So I believe this 15,000 is an additional request. Just wanted to make sure you knew those were separate.
Okay.
Anything else there? Do you have any sense of what's happening with them in terms of workload? Any?
I don't, and I did not speak to Ms. Pressler either.
Okay. All right, well then, if there's nothing else there, we'll go to item E, which is Domestic Violence and Homeless Coalition, and representing those groups is Darrianne Johnson. So welcome, Ms. Johnson.
Good afternoon. I probably should let you know that I don't represent the Homeless Coalition at this point.
Okay.
Joe Warner is now the president of the Homeless Coalition, so just to clarify that.
All right. So you're just representing domestic violence this afternoon. Okay.
And I should probably add to that, we are the homeless shelter, but the Homeless Coalition is a separate entity from us. Okay. My name is Darianne Johnson, and I am the Director of the Domestic Violence and Rape Crisis Center. I have also brought with me Paulette Reel, who's been the accountant for domestic violence for 31 years. 2012 marks the 34th year that the Domestic Violence and Rape Crisis Center has been in existence. Our agency provides services to Stark County and the surrounding 7 counties, which encompasses 10,002 square miles. DVRCC has faced many challenges in the past, and we are definitely facing challenges today. The challenges that we are facing include lack of affordable housing, increased rent prices, overall increase in the cost of living in Dickinson, the influx of people, lack of daycare and affordable daycare, drugs and alcohol, and staff turnover. Due to the increase in rents in our area, even if people are able to obtain housing vouchers, they are unable to use them or find an apartment. This has resulted in longer stays in our shelter, as the only options families have is to move out of state, stay long-term in our shelter, or go back to the abusive situation they fled from. We have had to turn people away, and this is not what we're used to doing. We collaborate with other agencies to find solutions, but many times the only solution is to stay in the situation that they're in. The longer stays in the shelters skew our numbers, as we are unable to shelter as many people because we're consistently full. Numbers, of course, are what drive the funding that we receive as grants. Smaller numbers will result in less funding, and many people who do not live in North Dakota, such as our grantors, do not understand the problems we face. We also face cuts in funding because of the cuts the government is making. One of our grants, which will go into effect on July 1st, was cut $6,000. If this is any indication in grant funding for this coming year, it will be difficult to continue helping families as we are now. Another challenge is the overall increase in the cost of living in Dickinson. The families that we work with many times are not working in jobs that pay well enough to pay rent and provide the basic necessities. Even if the spouse or significant other works in the oil field, if they should separate, the money is gone. And in these situations, many times, the mother has not needed to work and has stayed home to take care of the children, and now she finds herself with nothing. In order to obtain a job, she must first find childcare, which proves to be a difficult task. And if childcare is found, it is most of the time unaffordable, with one parental paycheck coming in per pay period. We advocate for the families to apply for help through other agencies, but we're finding that even with assistance, it is very difficult for them to provide for their families. With the increased diverse population coming from all areas of the country, we are seeing an increase in domestic violence assaults. Our community, as well as our agency, was not prepared for this influx of people, and we are trying to handle many more clients with the same number of staff. My staff is no stranger to stress, but we have lost 2 employees in the past year, leaving our agency to pursue job opportunities which would not take such an emotional toll on them and their families. Now, I know that I've given you a significant amount of negative news thus far, which is not normally what I like to do when I give my presentation. However, there is some good news mixed in with the bad. DVRCC has had tremendous support from the cities and counties that we serve, from United Way, and from a large number of individual donors. This local support is very important, not only to diversify our funding base, but also to meet grant match requirements. Local support is a critical factor in securing the grant funding that we receive, both state and federal. As I said in the beginning, DVRCC has faced challenges in the past and persevered. We are confident that we will continue to serve this area for many years to come. We thank the City of Dickinson for their past support and hope to have your continued support in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Questions or comments here by commissioners?
Darian, could you remind people at home how much you're asking for in funding as well?
$15,000.
And, you know, in your prepared remarks, of course, you referred to the oil impact or energy impact. Can you elaborate a little more on that, what you're experiencing, and say what you're experiencing today and how that compared to 1 or 2 years ago?
We are finding actually a couple of different things. We have helped a lot of women who are not from our area, but for those women, it's usually just a bus ticket. They want to go back to where they've come from. They've either come with a boyfriend or a husband. Things don't work out. They want to go back to where they have families. Our own homegrown people that have gotten jobs in the oil field have gone from barely making ends meet to making $3,000 or $4,000 a week. That changes people. And we're finding that in a lot of cases, what used to maybe be a situation that wasn't probably great, all of a sudden gets to be a very bad situation because money allows power. Power is what drives someone to commit domestic violence. And also with that, we're seeing a lot more drugs and alcohol, both legal and illegal.
And is that because they're now affordable?
It is.
Ms. Johnson, hey, looking at your financial statement, I see you do have some savings. Is that purely a reserve, or are you saving for something specifically? Is that just operating?
I'm going to let Paulette answer financial questions. She's much smarter than I am.
We do like to keep a reserve so that we can continue to be stable, no matter what our federal and state funding is, no matter what our local funding is. We like to have a sustainable program. We have been fortunate the last couple of years in that our local support, cities, counties, United Way, private donors, have been very supportive of the agency. And that has resulted in a couple of years of surplus. What, in an informal way, what we've determined that we need to do is set aside as much as we feel we can, because what we desperately need is more space. We need additional space, or we need alternative space. We have not identified anything that will work at this point, but we're trying to look ahead. We don't see our being at full capacity ending anytime soon. And so in order to serve those that come to us, we absolutely have to have more shelter space. So that is our set aside. Anything we don't need for day-to-day operations, we intend to dedicate to space if we are lucky enough to find something that's suitable. That will be a challenge in itself.
Thank you.
If you find an acceptable alternative or option to more space, there are, you know, city funds that you could apply for that could go towards a building. And I'm thinking of the 30% of our 1% sales tax that can't be used for operations, but that can be used for capital expenditures, which, you know, a building project would be a capital expenditure, and the mission of those funds would be consistent with the mission of your organization. And so I don't know if you're in a situation where the building you have could be expanded, or if you would have to go to a second shelter, or you would construct or buy a larger shelter and sell the one that you have. I mean, those are all up to you, but there would be, it's just so you're aware of it, you probably already are, but, you know, that might be a project that the city would be interested in contributing towards.
What kind of funding would be available? Do you have?
Well, that, in my opinion, you know, the 30% of the 1% sales tax.
Right.
And I mean, that's, you know, currently the annual revenues there are fairly significant. And, you know, we can't use that money to support operations, but we can use it for capital expenditures. So that would be the primary source of funds that I would see for it. That's really the previous presenter, the Rough Rider Commission. I mean, you would have two sources of funds for that. You'd have the hospitality tax. You would also, 30% could also fund that too, because again, it's capital expenditure.
And as soon as we get further down the road, we certainly will look at all of those options. We're struggling to find an appropriate facility.
Yeah, I would, you know, anything that's already built would have a high price tag, and of course, new construction costs, I think, are fairly high in the community presently. But anyway, you know, I understand today you're talking about operating funds when the $15,000, but do want you to be aware that if you do come across the right expansion project, that's something I think city would be interested in.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions?
Just a big thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Now, we know it's a difficult job in the best of time, you know, in a different environment, but the environment we're in right now certainly complicates your job. We realize that.
It does.
Yeah, and your testimony does a good job of communicating that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to hear from the Stark County veterans. And since you're being filmed for Channel 29, if you could introduce yourselves.
I'm Eugene Robinson. My name's Art Warner. We are here. There should be a couple other people coming in. If you happen to see them out the back, just motion them to come in. You'll have to excuse me for wearing my uniform. I just returned from a couple of military funerals this morning, and I was going to change, but then I kind of changed my mind. On the way, I heard somebody say that city fathers don't listen too good at times, and so I figured I better have my name on just in case I don't hear that well.
Pardon me?
Okay, we'd like to just talk a little bit about where we are in terms of the memorial that we are proposing. We have a pretty good dedicated group of individuals who have been kind of spearheading this drive to get a Veterans Memorial in the city of Dickinson. Now, this is basically for Stark County veterans. It has been brought to my attention that we are the only city, major city in North Dakota that will have a Veterans Memorial. No other big city has it yet. And so it gives us the opportunity to be first and foremost in terms of having a real nice memorial. If Gene could hold that up, or just show it up front to the commissioners. This is the proposed memorial. You had a local sculptor, Linda Little, that drew this up and did a real nice job. And so we've got a pretty good basis as far as what it is going to look like. At this point in time, where we are at with this is we are just in the process of obtaining our 501c3, so we can issue the tax-exempt certificates and receipts when individuals donate money for this. We applied for that quite some time ago, and they have assured us that we will be receiving it. We do not have it officially yet, expected sometime later this month. So that's just in kind of a hold status at this point. We have done some fundraising. Once we get the 501c3 status officially, we will do a whole lot more. We're looking at a pretty elaborate type of a memorial. As you can see by looking at it, it's pretty neat, and we can add to it as the funds allow. So far, we have contacted a firm in Vermont that has made us a pretty good offer in terms of the granite slabs that are going to be used. They will do the etching of the names, actually the sandblasting of the names, on that wall prior to bringing it out to Dickinson, North Dakota. They will come out, install it. They'll give us all the specs and so on. We've had some offers from locally for preparation of the concrete and so on to get the thing started. From there, we can add a lot of things, an awful lot of things, to make it as nice as we want it to be. And that is going to depend on the dollars. That's the key to it, how much money we have. My vision of the thing is there will be benches in that area. There will be additional seating. There will be picnic areas. If it's going to be a Veterans Memorial Park, let's make it a park and make it decent. The other thing that I have envisioned is if we can get one or a couple of pieces of additional surplus armament, maybe a tank, a rocket, whatever, representing the various branches of the service. That would make it a real nice Veterans Memorial Park. And so those are all things that we can work on as we go into the future. But right now, our main focus is to raise some money to get us off the ground. Like I said, we already have some of that. We can sure use a whole lot more, and that's why we're here today. The city is going to be showcased in terms of the other cities in North Dakota, hopefully by this Veterans Memorial. So with that, I'd entertain any questions, anything that we can possibly provide for you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Any questions?
Just for the viewers at home, can you tell us how much money you're asking for from the city?
At this point, we don't have a definite figure.
Okay.
When we first started the initial planning, we took in and took a look at some of the other memorials around the area. There's one in Kildare, one in Belfield, there's one in Medora, and so on. And they spent quite a bit of money on them. And based on that and the number of names that we're looking at, and at this point, we are projecting 7,000 names. Mm-hmm. So far, I've got about 3,600 names that I've already compiled, and we have a whole lot more that we can obtain. when we started the planning, we were using a ballpark figure of $750,000 to make it a really nice memorial. Now, that can be modified accordingly. So that's kind of, what we're looking at. When we go into the fundraising, we hope to get quite a few dollars from, the oil companies and things of that type that are here that could provide us additional help.
In your application, I think I read that the Stark County has committed $100,000 to you,
That is correct.
and then you're requesting $100,000 from the city?
If they can come up with that kind of a figure, that would certainly help toward that end goal, yes.
Other questions or comments?
Location for the people at home as well?
The location, this will be located where the old swimming pool is. We've been doing some work with the National Guard to try and remove that old outdoor swimming pool.
And that's the one up by Rocky Butte.
That is the one by Rocky Butte Park, just across the road. That will,
You're working with the Dickinson Parks and Recreation.
That is right.
Group on this, yes.
yeah, we've been actively involved with the Park and Rec Department for quite some time now. So we're looking at that, and then we have the issue with the band shell and all that, how that's going to fit in and so on. So that's all one comprehensive project, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think if Parks and Rec can come up with a good plan for the band shell along with this, seems like it has all the elements of being a really nice project if, it can all come together. And the location is great.
We've got the people, we got a pretty good cross-section of people on the committee that are familiar with what it's needed. Cal Lundberg is helping us out. He worked closely on the project in Kildare, so he's got a good feel for what it takes and where it's at and things of that type. So that all helps us.
Any other comments, questions?
It's a good project. It would be good for our community.
We are excited about it. It's the one thing, comment I'll share with you. I've been just involved in securing names and so on. And one comment I did receive that's kind of unusual for me was from several individuals now who were in the Guard. And when I called them and asked them, they said, it's about time that some of the Guard people were recognized.
Definitely.
That hasn't been done in the past, and so this is kind of a unique project from that standpoint as well.
Mr. Robinson, anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'd like to add also that this statue, which we've had made, will be 6'4", standing in front of these slabs of 8 foot. It's going to be east of the airplane, facing east, and the swimming pool area will more or less be the parking lot. Okay. And as Art says, things have been going along pretty good now. Only the government is a little slow about getting us this tax relief, but
You don't mean city government now, do you?
no, federal government.
Okay.
But they sound like they're coming along pretty good, finally going to get along with it. We've been about 1.5 years on this, and they're slow.
Okay. Well, we'll act quicker on your funding than they.
We appreciate that.
I said we'll act on it. I didn't say we'd grant it now, that.
We appreciate anything we can get. Because it's going to take quite a bit.
No.
Well, thanks for all your work on this project.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for taking
Okay,
the time.
yep, thank you for being here, and good luck.
Thank you.
Come on, guy. He said,
time she's scheduled for? Okay.
Is public transit outside there? Can you tell, Tina?
I think they might be waiting for Colleen. I don't see
Oh.
her. And they're scheduled for 2:30.
RSVP, she said.
Is RSVP next? Oh.
So we're up to about 400,000 so far?
Sorry, RSVP is here? Well, we're only going to fund one, either public transit or RSVP. Who's here? Well, then, I have to change what I have up on my computer here, but we'll go with RSVP, and I think Nancy Olson is representing them. So welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Do you have copies of our brochures? I brought a few, if I'm able to
Well, you
give them
can
to you.
hand them out.
RSVP Plus North Dakota is a volunteer matching organization. We recruit volunteers now. The last couple of years, we've been recruiting volunteers of all ages and placing them into volunteer service with nonprofit agencies and government entities of various kinds. We also, in 2011, became the sponsor for the foster grandparent program. We believe that our constituency always will be largely those who are 55 and older, even though we do recruit volunteers under that age. For most of the rest of the world, underage is under 18, but for us, it's under 55. And so that's the population we report to the federal government, who is the principal funder for us, is those individuals who are over 55. We have 75 nonprofit agencies or government entities that we work with here in Dickinson. We have a brand new staff person here in Dickinson, AJ Hitchcock. And our office is just on First Street, 117 First Street, with Folk Rehab. Do you have questions that I can answer?
Just for the viewers at home, how much are you asking in funding?
$25,000.
What is the project in the last year or two that you're most proud of, or the biggest thing that you've been working on in the community?
Well, here in Dickinson, we have a large number of different kinds of activities going on. I'm not the local expert because my office is actually in Fargo. AJ, do you want to talk about what's happening here in Dickinson? Well,
Year or two.
Hi. Well, I do know specifically, we have a bone builders program that RSVB puts on that is directly targets osteoporosis, both prevention of it furthering, and it is over, we've started out with 5 different stations running the class. It's all volunteer-based. The program is solid. The class that I have been to that I'm aware of is full and has a waiting list. It's targeted for seniors. Right now, currently, because I'm new in the position, I'm not as familiar with where we've been as where we're going.
Sure.
And what has surprised me the most is just RSVP Plus has been in Dickinson since the 70s, and most people, when I tell them where I work, don't know where I work. And when I tell them what it stands for, they say, well, what do you do? So my project has been to really get this out on the front burner in the public eye so I can both attract more and recruit volunteers and then let services know who could utilize our services and businesses who already are involved in community service. I'm trying to synergize that all together. So you're going to start seeing us weekly in the press. You're going to see us on the chamber site and on the Convention and Visitors Bureau site. I'm working with the university, I'm working with the police department, so we're really looking at promoting ourselves and making people more aware, and hence being able to fill more positions. And we're especially excited right now about the foster grandparent program, because from what I've read about the schools and what's happening here, there's a focus I've read about the programs that are being instilled in the elementary schools, where they're going to offer mini workshops and real one-on-one solid time with the kids and get their reading scores up. Foster grandparents are people over 55 who, when they're eligible for the program, will be in the schools partnering with the teachers 20 hours a week, up to 40 hours a week, at no cost to the school district, but a stipend for those who need the additional income. So that's where we're really focused right now. That's right on the front burner.
Can you give us an idea of how many volunteer hours you brought to the community?
I don't know that. I know we have 475 volunteers here locally. And most of our volunteers run in the 12 to 15 hours a week range. When you talk to the volunteers, and we have a recognition here each fall at the Elks, and when you visit with the volunteers about what they do, their date books are full. They're at many different places. They're delivering meals. They're at the congregate meal sites. We have a number of them at Arcade, Amen Inc. The community really revolves around this population getting out and doing sometimes what might seem to be small things, like making quilts or baby caps or things like that, but they're so active and engaged in the community, and I think that's where the real benefit is. We do talk in terms of hours, but I hate to reduce it to that just because the benefit to real people by real people is so powerful within the community.
Definitely.
Has the energy development had any impact on your organization here in Dickinson at all?
It has a bit, and we expect there will probably be more. We have had some volunteers tell us that they can no longer deliver meals because they're afraid of the traffic. It has become a deterrent. That and some other things have become a deterrent. Many of our volunteers are also income-wise on the margin, and they've sort of been chased out of town. And that's not just here. We're seeing that all over the West because housing has become a challenge that they didn't anticipate it was going to be, and just the costs of living have increased to a point where they're no longer able to sustain that. So we are seeing some out-migration out of these areas, and we do need to replace that effort with others in the community who will step up.
Other comments or questions? Okay, thank you for being here, and good luck in your new position.
Thank you so much.
Well, Colleen, we had to go by you, and we granted your funding to the RSVP.
That's great. That's a good organization.
So,
Would you like to say?
yeah, it's your turn.
Okay,
So,
it's my turn.
from Public Transit, we have
Well, I better come an hour early.
Colleen Radikowski, Channel 19 star.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Mayor Dennis Johnson, City Commissioners, and guests. Thank you for the opportunity to make a request for 2013 funding. We are very appreciative of the city's in-kind and financial contributions for public transit for the community. Really, without your support, we wouldn't be able to operate. What I'll do is I'm going to go through the application just briefly, and then I wanted to touch on some of our statistics and then the financials and wrap it up. Why don't you, if you could pull out your application. And, excuse me, we are making, I only made a 3% increase on top of the current funding that we have for 2012. The 3% would be on the taxi subsidy as well as the city sales tax. And I briefly outlined for your information, you probably already know, but I explained how you guys changed the funding for us to a stipend, and both stipends are coming out of the city sales tax instead of the general fund. I have a new request that we talked about at the beginning of the year with Commissioner Altman. He's been working a little bit on the side with us on a $40,000 request to hire a public transit coordinator to help mid-manage the operations. And that request I put in, if we could, to be considered possibly through the hospitality tax. Overall, our public transit provides pre-scheduled and on-demand taxi rides for the city of Dickinson. All of our vehicles but one has wheelchair lift capabilities for passengers who are disabled. And we do 2 routes, 2 days a week to Bismarck. And we do out-of-town rides as we are able to, but honestly, we have not been taking any just because the drivers need to stay in town. We don't have enough staffing to do out-of-town rides. The money, that subsidy that we receive for the city will be for salaries and operating expenses to assist us. If you turn your page to our financials, financials don't look very good, so I better explain. They're in the hole. The reason they are, that we have some negative numbers here. We do receive funding, as you know, from DOT, the Department of Transportation, and we receive funding every quarter for them. We have not received the January, February, March funding yet. We just made that application. We also have not received our 80% off of on a vehicle that we have purchased. Some of that was some staffing at our end getting the application in, and plus DOT had a turnover of staff there, so they're heavily training 2 people who are new, and then they also have 1 position open out of the 4 that are working there. So that's going to be coming to us, and that's why the numbers look skewed on this statement. What I wanted to do just to help you understand our overall picture is I did have Doug pass over to Rita our financials from 2011. Those numbers are directly off of what the PowerPoint I gave you earlier in the year, if you remember what I gave my year-end report. Last year we budgeted about a $3,000 net income, and we came out with $15,000. That's wonderful. Still a shoestring budget though, but I'm really happy to see that it's not in the red. Now if you go, I wanted to briefly show you that here, just to give you the overall picture of our operations for transit. If you come back to the 2012 that I gave you with the application, we're budgeting a net income of about $12,600. We are on track to meet that, to work towards that goal, and basically it's because of some of our cash flow and receivables that are coming through to affect that. Okay, a little bit of information on our trips, and I've shared this with you, but just to refresh your memory a little bit from early in the year. Out of all the rides that public transit does, the top 4 in order of the most rides that we give, the most rides that we give right now are work. We used to be medical. So about 28.3% of our rides for just this quarter, I'm just going to do so far for 2012, most recent data for you, is 28.3. The second is medical at 25.8. And then the next one, the third highest is shopping at 18.7, and then social recreation would be after that as our 4th. Now, if you look at what's happening in the community, we've had some new transit occur as far as 2 taxi cabs and some other transportation for the social bar crowd at night. The 2 areas that we're down is airport rides and then the social rec. And I'm sensing those are from the bar crowd, those new businesses, and then the taxi companies that have opened up. A lot of the taxi companies that have opened up are doing the town-to-town, here to Watford, Bismarck, Killdeer. They're doing a lot of the town-to-town rides. Those are the rides we're not able to do. If you look at the top 3 rides that I told you about, medical, shopping, or work was first, medical, and then shopping, all 3 of them are up compared to last year's overall in percentage points. That's the community, the people that we are assisting. And majority of our rides that we give, we do have a lot of wheelchair. We are the only one out of all the transit that do the wheelchair. Those are about 16% of our rides, overall our wheelchair assistance. And then 36% of our passengers, 36% are elderly and disabled. So I thought those are some good statistics to share with the commissioners this year, or right now at this time. Let's see, so we touched a little bit about financial statistics. I did want to let you know we're in our new building. Significant amount of my time is on the new building still. I mean, it's city-owned, we're housed there. The construction of that building, now that we're in that building, a lot of my time is the cleanup. We're still not done with the building. There's still things that occur, of course, as you get a new building when the rain and maybe a leak and something here didn't get quite done right. So I'm still spending a significant amount of time on the building, more than I did before we moved in, is working a little bit with the vendors, making sure things are done. We're working on the outside of the landscaping. If you've gone past it, we just laid sod last week. The trees are up, but then now the trees, there's always something going on when you're constructing. So I did want to tell the city, a lot of my time is spent on the building, inside and out of it, just managing contractors and things that need to be done with that. So, but we're so grateful, so happy. I don't know if I walk into the garage ever and not say thank you for the garage to keep the vehicles in. And I did want to touch, I think one of the questions that the mayor's going to ask me is, I heard a little bit about the oil impact. I'd like to just tell you just ahead of time how the oil impact industry has affected us. Of course, traffic. It's just this last 2 weeks is even more so, where I'm calling back in the office because I'm out and about and seeing a road that you can't get through as well. Maybe a 2-lane has gone to a 1-lane. Was just leaving the office and heard one of the drivers say, stay away from 22 and 21st Street. There's an accident that has occurred there. 2 ambulances are there. So the drivers are always working together. Where's the easiest way to get through town? When we had the rain, that heavy hail, last night we had the hail, but last week we had that downpour, about 2.5 inches. The drivers needed to stay put. Not the time to be trying to get an elderly person in a wheelchair in the vehicle when in 1 second you're saturated with rain. So that's just rain weather related, but we are working constantly with road conditions, increased traffic, trying to get to and from as quick as we could before. It's just taking a lot longer for us to get around town and across town. The other thing that has impacted us is employment. Obviously, I think we're all employment and hiring and maintaining staff. I've had to increase salaries, and I'm looking at that again, making some changes to work with office staff. And we just have to do that to stay afloat, to keep employment. Looking for a bar crowd dispatcher again. You're looking at one of them. And we are short in the bar crowd area again, so I've been filling in to help until we can hire. I think we've got 2 applications in on that. But it's challenging to hire. Safety, it would be an area I'd like to cover as well. There's always some concern a little bit about safety for us with the increase, not just on the road, but of our personnel with the oil. I think that's all that I have to present, and I'll entertain questions right now.
Can you remind the people at home how much you're asking for from the city?
Yes, absolutely. We are asking for that 3%. Grab so many papers here. The dollar amount that we are requesting would be $87,550 for taxi subsidy, and then through the city sales tax, we're asking $113,300, and then I mentioned earlier the $40,000 for the public transit coordinator. The grand total is $240,850. $40,000 is new, and then a 3% increase on those numbers from last year.
Can you tell us more about this public transit coordinator?
Position?
That's a new position, and what's driving that, and what would they be doing?
Elder care used to be one just manager, one director with support staff. And when I came in about 4 years ago, my goal, personal goal, because of the amount of work on the director, was that we have some mid-management, mid-coordinator for the elder care services, which was nutrition and outreach, and then one for transit. And that transit position would be a person that would be like a mid-manager. They would manage the transit staff, assist with the special projects that are going on, assist with like if there's an accident that occurs, they would assist with HR issues, hiring, doing staff reviews, making recommendations to me. I work really close with my managers, so it would be a partnership, but somebody that would assist with the overall day-to-day operations. Probably do some assistance with all the grant applications, to assist with reporting and statistics. And also, I think that person would have to probably fill in. We would be training that person as a driver and a dispatcher to fill in here and there as needed when staff. We're a small operation, and we have to have cross-training in order to stay open.
Clean, looking at your balance sheet, a big accounts receivable number.
Yes, yep.
What's that about?
The accounts receivable, as I mentioned earlier, the reason that our net income statements for this year is low, those are the monies we're waiting in on. You know, the state quarterly aid, and we have that ban. Those are the receivables, and that's why it's so high.
Okay.
As we put through those grant apps, I have our bookkeeper book them so that we know they're coming and we can manage them on the receivable.
Okay, in spite of that, it looks like you've got some savings.
Yes, yep.
That being set aside for a certain reason?
We operate with 80 employees. Our budget's over $1 million. Since I came on board, I've been working for, my personal goal is $300,000. I would like to have secured aside, just so that we're stable.
So
I
it's
don't
just
have to go to the
operate-
bank. Yep, I don't want to go to the
No.
bank for payroll. They've had to
Sorry.
do that before. So it's kind of like, it's like a cushion to help us. It's not something that it's a bit of a cushion, and it's also to help us with the monies that we put there are 20% for vehicles. You know, we have 2 high-top vehicles or 2 vans we're looking to purchase. I have to come up with 20%. So it's like vans, route match software that we're looking to purchase. It's my match money in there, and also a little bit of a cushion.
So it's really just an operating reserve. You're not saving it for a certain project or anything like that.
It's a little bit for like the van, it's a little bit of both, I guess. It's a bit of savings, and it's also probably some of the match money might be in there, or in the checking account, and I don't really have that split out.
Okay.
Yep.
Your accounts receivable, that's all state money? I mean, that's not from private parties?
There is some of that in there as well. Just the natural, not private parties as far as ridership, but it could be some money in there, maybe a nursing home contract is in there, maybe a contract for some of our partnerships that we work for that also put in contract money. So it'd be a little bit of, it would be everything.
Do you ever write off any accounts receivable, or do you collect them all?
Goal is to collect them all.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, I don't believe we've ever written off anything. Might have taken 6 months to get, might take 6 months to get something that we build out, but I don't believe we've ever written off. We have had people ride with us and tell us they'll pay us and they not pay us. That has happened.
No.
We do have that. I don't keep track of that on here, but maybe somebody says, can you take me from my paycheck to go get it cashed? We don't know that. We take them and honor that, and they might go in and not come back. Or somebody will give a ride and say, no, I'll pay you tomorrow. I'll call, and they don't pay. Send a bill out, don't know response. We have a very, very minute amount. Maybe, since I've been here, I'm under 100, I would think. Not a lot, but occasional.
No, that's, people don't charge, charge
No,
rides.
not without a contract, they don't.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On
Any
the
other questions? Yep.
On the elder care side, is that program growing, declining, staying about the same?
For the nutrition program?
Right.
Yes, nutrition program is probably dropping a bit. Our elderly, some of the elderly, like say 80, could be any age from the 60 years up, but some of the older who are passing away, we're not filling the funnel as quickly, I guess is what you could say in the business world, when we're not getting the 60-year-olds in as much for the meal program. We're finding some of the elderly are moving out of town to live with family because they can't afford to live here with rent and food costs, or all over inflation costs in the community. That has affected us as well.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do you have, is part of your funding federal funding?
The federal, I would, the state funding that we get through DOT, a lot of that is federal funded down to the state gives it back out. I would say that, and I would say both of our programs are federal funded coming through the state funding. Through the Older Americans Act would be on the nutrition side,
Okay.
and then DOT side would be through, it's the highway bill.
What's
that we're part of.
happening with that funding? Is it staying about the same?
On the nutrition component, I would say DOT, I think, we're going into legislative session, and our lobbyists are working, of course, to maintain funding and to grow it for us with transit and the streets, of course, that, and the highways and bridges. Nutrition side, I'm not quite sure. I think that's more, not unsure. They're getting a little bit more stricter with the regulations, meeting the state regs a little bit more with the nutrition, the menu planning. We don't have the option to substitute foods as much as we did before. We used to let people pick up a meal to take it home to eat. That's not allowed anymore. You have to stay at the site to eat it if you're not getting a home delivered meal. So I would say it's getting a little tighter and more unsure on the nutrition side than the DOT side.
Okay.
And those are my opinions.
All right, any other comments, questions? Anything else you'd like to add?
Just thank you. I mean, there's a lot happening in our town, in which we all know, a lot of talk with everything. And I just continue to appreciate and tell you that we would never be able to do this without your support, and we're very grateful of the partnership. We have a strong partnership with the city, with all the people we work with, and we're grateful for that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. How far ahead of schedule are we, Tina, do you think?
I believe Western Wellness was scheduled for 3 o'clock, so we're about 15 minutes ahead right now.
Okay. Well, then I think we'll take a short break now. And our next presentation is from the Western Wellness Foundation, and representing them is Chris Fair. So welcome, Mrs. Fair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time to hear about Best Friends Mentoring Program and to consider our request for funding for the coming year. I also want to thank you for the current year's allocation of $3,750. That provided mentoring services for 4 children. So just so you know, those 4 children from Dickinson were each matched with a trained volunteer mentor that provided social skills training, companionship, role modeling, homework assistance, tutoring, and/or friendship. Besides the 4 youth that your contribution sponsored, we worked with an additional 218 youth from Dickinson and another 20 or so from outside of Dickinson. At this point, halfway through the calendar year, we are projecting a shortfall again. And then for the coming year, 2013, we're looking at a shortfall of probably at least $55,000 or more. It's a little early for our budgeting process, but that's what we're looking at. Just to let you know what's happening financially with Best Friends, our funding sources more and more are becoming local. For example, and we're having some challenges even with that. For example, our partnership with North Dakota State University that I told you about last year will end June 30th, so about a couple weeks from now. Our Title V funding, which the city endorsed a year ago, also ends at the end of this month. Both of those grants funded the salaries of our 2 full-time program coordinators. Those are the people providing direct services to the youth in our program. We will be picking up both of those salaries beginning on July 1st. So that's going to be at least $35,000 for the rest of this calendar year, in addition to the office expenses and the existing salaries that we have now, that we are now paying. We did receive a United Way grant this year. It was very generous, and we're very grateful for that, and that will help. And then we're also concentrating on our special events to help raise funds too. So you can see how it's all kind of shifting to be more local. We're also continuing to seek grants and partnerships However, we all know about the national recession. Federal grants are really not there anymore. That's diverted attention. The recession has diverted attention from social programs, and it also is stressing our private grantors. So we are not seeing a lot of the foundation grants becoming available as we maybe did in the past. As you know, if you invest in a prevention program such as Best Friends Mentoring, it'll serve the city well into the future. Here's an example of what can happen. 10 years ago, 5 little boys came into the Best Friends program. Each of them, for a variety of reasons, had some things going on in their lives and with their families, and they were really expected not to graduate from high school. But I'm happy to report that I watched each of them go across the stage this year and get a diploma. Nice young men, all of them on the honor roll. How cool is that? So they're on the path to higher education and to jobs. They'll be contributing to their communities, whether they stay here in Dickinson or move on. Each of them had a mentor who was a huge part of their success. Last school year, 94% of the youth in our program improved their academic competency. More than 90% improved their attitudes, behaviors, and social skills. So those are some short-term results. Just told you about the long-term. Those are short-term results. But all of that is pretty darn impressive. We're seeing an increase in the demand for our services for mentoring. Youth at risk of delinquency, becoming a victim of or a perpetrator of violence, educational challenges such as not graduating from high school. Studies show us when youth are not supported by caring adults or by mentors, those risk factors increase. When they have a mentor, when they have at least 3 caring adults in their lives, those risk factors are lessened. When youth don't graduate from high school, they earn less money. They're 8 times more likely to end up in prison. So mentoring really helps to prevent kids from becoming negative statistics. We have already made a number of cuts and staff reassignments at Best Friends for the past year. Next week, our board of directors and our staff will be meeting to prioritize services for the coming year with the idea that we may have less funding, but more demand. So we're requesting that the city invest in our youth to ensure that mentoring services continue and that we can prevent some of the economic and educational challenges that these kids could face. Sponsoring 6, 10, or 12 children for mentoring to help their future success really, I think, will be something that you can be proud of. And it will pay off big dividends in the future for our community. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Chris, for the viewers at home, how much are you asking for funding this year?
I think I asked for 10,000, is that right? Yes, I did, 10,000. Just wanted to look and see.
Can you elaborate on the impacts on your program from the oil development, energy development in the area? I mean, what are you seeing today that's different from 1 and 2 years ago? Or are you seeing any differences?
Yeah, we do. The positive is we're seeing people volunteer in our program. People are calling up and saying, I miss my little brother at home. I'd like to have a little brother to do stuff with. Or I'd like to volunteer a couple hours. So we're seeing really good positive things. We're also seeing families that are pretty stressed, and you know, when your family's stressed, the kids are stressed, and it shows in the behavior of the children. So we are seeing, and we're seeing some things we haven't seen before. You know, a couple years ago was our very first non-English speaking child in our program. That's something that we just accept is going to happen, and we look for a tutor or someone who knows Spanish, mostly, who can work with the child. We are seeing kids, a lot more people on the poverty level is who we're seeing. You know, those what we're seeing is the divide between the haves and the have-not is increasing, and we're seeing more of the have-nots, people who really are working as hard as they can, and we see that their addresses are changing quite frequently, so we're seeing a lot of moving. That really stresses kids out. You'll see that in their behavior. They could be moving from an apartment to a camper, from a camper to maybe grandma's house, or sometimes they are being split up and they're going to different places because, you know, the family can't all live together. Other things we're seeing are kids that come into our community who are way far behind educationally, and we are providing tutors for them, or even just social support. You know, can they go to the pool? Where's the pool? They're not even from our climate. So, you know, where's the outdoor pool? Can't you go to the pool here? I mean, you know, just different, really a lot of different things. Those are challenges that most of our mentors really enjoy because they love to go out and do things, but something we haven't really thought about before because we've really dealt with kids who've been from here. So you're seeing a variety kind of on a small kid scale of what we're seeing on the large scale in our community, I think. It's not just new people, though. We're seeing people who've been in our program for a long time not being able to afford to live where they are, or moving in with someone else. Or parents are working 2 or 3 jobs, and we see the kids being home alone a lot, more than probably you would think would be optimal.
Other questions?
Thank you very much.
All right,
I
thank you
appreciate your
for being
support. Everybody on the commission's been so encouraging to us, and just knowing that you think good things about Best Friends helps us too. Thank you very much.
Okay, next from the Mayor's Committee on Persons with Disabilities, and then also the Small Business Development Center, is Rayanne Keelan. So, welcome.
Good afternoon. Only at the right-hand side today? Okay, anyway, I'm Rayanne Keelan. I'm representing the Mayor's Committee on Employment of Persons with Disabilities. And as usual, we like to come and tell you a little bit about our committee. We actually have a new member, a volunteer member, so that's exciting because we're growing in support. Dr. Greg Kovacs has decided that he would like to help us with some of our efforts, and I'm so excited to have him on board because I think that's a great connect for us. Last year, we kind of didn't come and ask for money because we were financially fine. We're a big budget. We run on about $2,000 a year. About $1,000 of that typically comes from the city. The rest comes from handicap fines and optimists. We typically, as you know, we do diversity days in the schools, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, so that they can experience what it's like to have a disability even for a day. And I think we believe it raises your awareness as you age to recognize that people with disabilities have value and struggles, but that doesn't mean that they can't be good employees. I mean, look at me. There's my smile. No comment from the chair. But I think Diversity Days is a great thing. Not only does it engage our students, but it engages their parents, and these people have jobs that are employers and can make an influence as well. We also do the annual recognition at the Chamber of Commerce banquet, where we recognize people who have done outstanding work with disabled people, whether it's employing them, encouraging them, possibly building for them. And our intent with that, we've always believed that the more we build awareness, the more that we can just kind of make a little bit of a difference. I think that we're seeing that, we see more and more, we have a different community now, and people with disabilities become a new resource for us as we're stretched to figure out how we're going to fill these positions. And so I think it's an exciting time for us to be able to do what we do. We're a very casual committee, as I've told you in the past. We're all volunteer. We have great leadership. But we do, our mayor has been a big breath of life for us. This was a floundering committee for a long time until Mayor Johnson stepped up and kind of reminded us of the importance of this. And we haphazardly move forward, but we get it done. And so again, this year we're here to ask you for another contribution of $1,000. We have honestly seen a little bit more out of handicap parking fees this year But with not coming last year, we're kind of getting down to where we're depleting the funds just a little bit, as you'll see by our big bank statement. And so as we move forward into this coming year, we want to make sure we're funded up so we can get those 2 programs back out and delivered. And, you know, if handicap fines continue to go up and we have those funds come in, maybe we won't need to come back next year for less. But do you have any questions? I know I come every year and basically say the same thing, but...
But you're improving, as you say it.
Am I improving? Oh, you know, I work on it. I practice and practice. Not, clearly. So,
Well, I can tell you as a parent, my kids have both gone through the diversification days, and each time that they've gone through that, it's made an impact on them. It is an activity that you perform that I think has an immediate impact that day when they come home, and I think it does have the lasting impact that you stressed too. So, very good program.
I think it does. A couple of years ago, I don't remember who gave us, it was a video, DVD, CD, whatever, that talked about relating with people with disabilities, and it was more from a child's perspective, you know, how to communicate. And so much of the message was that I'm not different. I have the same feelings, the same needs, the same hopes, the same goals as you do. Look me in the eyes, talk to me, include me. And I think that just even teaching children, I mean, maybe as adults we're kind of a little more chagrined, we've had a little more wear under the tires and experiences that may have changed our attitudes, but as young forming minds, to even just remind people to look at somebody in a wheelchair and acknowledge them, to look at somebody with a disability and say, hey, how you doing, and not be uncomfortable with that is a big step just to get started. So I think you're right. This is one of the things that I do in my life that I just absolutely am proud of, because it's not like we put a lot of time into this, but I think what we do makes really, truly a big impact. Mm-hmm. You know, where else do you serve, 300 people for $2,000, $2,000? It's just amazing to me, and have that kind of an impact. Yeah, it's a good investment, I think. But it's not my checkbook, so I can say that, can't I?
Well, it's kind of your checkbook.
Well, it is.
You're one of the Dickinson citizens who pay the taxes. So.
I live in the county.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that concludes this meeting.
Does that mean I can no longer qualify to be on this committee?
Oh, no.
No. I think he who stands at the table gets to do.
We have a liberal definition of community.
I think you're right, and I suspect that it won't be long before I will be part of this community the way we're growing, unless I get on the lake, but...
You live out by Patterson Lake, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any chance we're going to annex Patterson Lake.
Nothing personal. Yes! Even though you're still going to be a block away from houses when you get out to the lake anymore, it's just amazing. It's amazing. But I'm preaching to the choir on that one. But yeah, I think this is a good program, and I hope that you can find it in your budget to support us on some level this year so we can continue to do this good work.
Well, with the mayor's name in the committee, it's probably pretty hard not to get the funding for it.
It's a lot easier to come up here and say, I'm here to represent the mayor's committee.
That's what I'm going to name my next foundation to, is the mayor's.
Yeah, the mayor's foundation for whatever I want to get done today that nobody else is going to fund.
Well, it's been ever since Clayton's been on the commission, it's been a 3-2 vote on this one. So.
Oh, okay. You mean Jean votes no?
Can you believe it?
Yeah. Okay. If you don't have any further questions, okay.
Thank you for being here. And
should I turn around and change my hat, or are we just okay moving on?
Oh, you're limited to one funding request per year, didn't you know that?
Yeah.
Okay. You can go to your next one.
Beg, borrow, and steal. I'm here again this year as another non-budgeted request for the City of Dickinson to help us at the Small Business Development Center. As I prepared for this, since I didn't realize that I was eligible to apply until just recently, I didn't put a lot together, and I also think that you get very overwhelmed with information, so I try to keep it very succinct. The bottom line of it is that our program has a lot of demand with this economy. We have a lot of new businesses starting. I provided you some charts that I thought were interesting, and one of them is the amount of people that we're serving from out of state who are relocating here, or even outside of our area. About 20% of the service that we're providing is from out of the region, out of the state. And A lot of those people are actually moving here and becoming residents of our community. I think it's 12% from the state and 17% nationally were from outside of the area. And when I got my report at the end of the year, I'm flipping through it about page 5, finally said to my state director, where the heck is my report? These are all out-of-state people. Dawned on me that that's the change in the last few years. We have so much more, and you know, again, preaching to the choir, you know that the people are coming from everywhere. So on a small business perspective, what we're seeing right now is that this is an incredible opportunity for our entrepreneurs in the local region. A lot of the businesses that we're helping are people that live here, that are seeing new opportunities. Oftentimes, they're not prepared to capitalize because they haven't planned for years and years and years to do this. They planned for 20 minutes because their employer said, you know, if you go out and start your own business, I can contract with you and we'll do this. And so the dynamics have shifted immensely. As you know, we're federally funded. They assume one person, you know, kind of one-person offices, so everything that we do beyond that model needs to be done by local match and local share. Last year, we did add a part-time person in Bowman and Beach. They both of those communities brought some significant money to the table to make that happen. I've been lucky enough to secure one of my interns at the university who's just going to be a little rock star, quite honestly, and is doing a great job. This past year, because of the demand on our program and the lack of staff, we did push down to the interns at the university, and I'm going to tell you what, that university, all the troubles beside, has nothing to apologize, because we're graduating some darn good kids out of that university. We had a lot of demand from our clients this year trying to come in and hire our university students because of their experience working with them through our program. They do real-life work. They're working with clients, doing some of the initial stuff to gather the information, and it's making quite a bit of difference. As we move forward into 13, though, the struggle that we truly have is that we're heavily leveraged in the outlying counties to provide services, and they bring the money. We need to figure out how we're going to serve Dickinson better, or Stark County better. You know, we're here, the demand is here, but the funding isn't following. So it's kind of a little bit of a tilted cart, and I think if you looked at the graphs that you were provided, you see that pretty quickly. I hoped that visual would get you to the point quickly. I put in what I felt was a reasonable request. Of course, anything that you're able to provide is going to be helpful, I will tell you. We've really made some process improvements. I think we have a great program. We've got a lot of really interesting, fascinating businesses. We're seeing a lot of high growth, fast growth businesses coming in. Not only are they coming in and having trouble capitalizing because they didn't have this knowledge a year ago this opportunity would be here, but it's not unusual for me to have a client that I worked with 6-7 months ago that started something oil industry related and calls me a month ago and says, oh my God, I just hired my 24th employee. I don't know how to do A, B, C, D. So there's real explosive growth in some of these businesses that, of course, we refer them then over to the Strom's business incubator to try to catch them with those more advanced things. And we've done a little bit of shifting around up there, but that's basically my request before you. I would rather entertain questions than ramble on forever about small business, because if you know me at all, I can talk your ear off about my passion for small business in this area. So,
for the people at home, how much are you requesting this year?
$50,000.
One of the chief complaints that we've had just as a community is that small business retail is lagging a couple of years behind the population. And so how are you approaching that, and how are you helping foster, that side of life?
That's a good question, Clayton. The Small Business Development Center is not charged with economic development in that course, and so that really falls more, I think, on the auspices of Stark Development to go out and recruit those retailers. What we find in our program is that it's more the hometown retailer that comes to our program and is looking at opening on Main Street or, downtown somewhere, whatever, and so what we're finding is the challenges for those people is, I talked about it a couple of years ago already, space. It's not even about affordable space, it's just about space, period. If you're a retailer and you're trying to open up in Dickinson, even if you're doing something small, finding appropriate space is virtually impossible. We are looking at ways we can maybe address that through maybe some type of a retail incubator or something, but those things take 2-3 years to fund and get going, so those are slow responses to that. We do have, we've accessed into the Department of Commerce has some tech-based entrepreneurship grants that they've let us tap into that have helped us with what I hate to call the distressed businesses. Because a lot of the businesses that are struggling right now are those retailers who are not able to capitalize the inventory growth that they're having. You know, all of a sudden they need 40 shirts instead of 10. They can't capitalize the growth in the wages that they may be experiencing. Their rents have gone up in their retail situations. And so we have this real massive stress that's happening with our small businesses, especially our retailers and food service people, because they seem to be the two that are the most at risk right now. And so we've been able to be lucky enough to get a little bit of funding through Department of Commerce to go in and really put some services at them. But, we've only had really, in the 3 years I've been there, we've really only had maybe 3 businesses that have closed because of financial stress, and some of those had other extenuating circumstances that you really weren't going to help them. But, I think we're really blessed by that funding because we can go in and try and help them a little more and catch them. We do a lot of networking, trying to hook them up with each other so that maybe they can get creative and share space or do more with referrals. We're trying to do more as far as getting information out to the general public on who these businesses are. People have this idea all the time, and this is for those of you at home. I hear all the time, well, why don't these stores come? We need more shopping. Well, you know what? If you can't make money, this isn't a social service to have retail. It's business. And if a retailer evaluates a market and there's not enough market to make the bills, you don't come. Now, we're getting to be stronger to recruit as a community, I think. And our retailers that are getting spot-on services are doing very well. But if you're average Joe Blow, it's a tough bite to try to open a store and carry inventory and hope somebody's going to buy it, and if not, reduce it, and then your margins go to nothing, and your wages just doubled, and your rent doubled, and, all of those dynamics. So it is kind of a little catch-22 there with some of these guys, You'd like to try and encourage more retail, but when they come in and you run the numbers with them, you're like, you can't afford to do this. You can't afford to be in business. So it's some harsh realities. I think we're kind of at that middle ground as a community where we're not quite big enough, but we're larger. Same thing with food service. I think that's another thing that's lacking behind, is that why aren't there more restaurants? And again, it goes back to the margins. The margins have changed because of the cost of labor and facilities, and just even, like I said, I have clients coming in who are going, oh my God, we barely get by and we need to add inventory, and we had to raise our wages $3 an hour, and now my husband and I are doing everything and the laundry and cleaning. So it's just, it's tough, because I think bringing retail here, there has to be the ability for them to be successful. And if people, I grew up in this town, and it's like, we all say, oh, shop local, shop local, shop local, we want more retail, but we'll run out of town and shop. Well, God darn it, that retailer that's trying to make a break in this community needs our dollars so that they can survive. Not really an answer, Clayton, I'm sorry, it's just my observation of kind of the perfect storm that's happening in that particular issue. And to remind people, shop local, because the people that open businesses here, if you don't support them, they're not going to stay. They can't. It's all about paying the bills like you and me.
Sure.
Respectfully said, of course, but. Any other questions?
I think that's it.
You're still awake. You guys are looking worse for the wear, but, just kind of a long day in a hot room. Thank you. If you have any questions, please do feel free and stop up, because, we talk about anything you'd like to as far as this little world goes of ours. Thanks, and good luck with your decisions.
Thanks.
Okay, we're down to the last request, and that's from Parks and Rec, and gee, we gave away all our money already, but...
We knew it was a strategic plan.
You're going to dissolve the board anyways, aren't you?
But we'll listen to you anyway.
We need to practice.
So, oops, I got the wrong. So we have Mr. Kramer here, and Mrs. Schroeder and Mr. LaFour.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to discuss our application. Just a couple things before we get into the application as far as the Parks and Recreation Department is involved, and a quick little overview. Obviously, our role is changing in the community of Dickinson as well as, the outside boundaries of Dickinson. The population has changed from 16,000 to 22,000, probably getting closer to 22, on its way to 35,000. We're a very small department, and our role is changing quite quickly within the community. Just a couple statistics here as far as numbers, just to, I guess, show you some of the changes that we're incurring. And I'll use the community center first. Some of these facilities, we can track numbers very easily. Golf course, Patterson Lake Community Center. Other entities or other components of the park district, like the skate park, dog park, neighborhood parks, it's not as easy for us to track the amount of people that are using those facilities. But as we drive around and as we maintain those facilities, we see record numbers of people utilizing all of those facilities. As far as the community center goes, at the end of May, we had 5,976 members. That is an 1,100-person increase from the same month 1 year ago. Usage for the month of May, 28,789 people came through the door just in the month of May. That is an increase of 3,800 people from, again, the same month 1 year ago. At the golf course, we already, at the end of May, have beaten our record for most rounds in one day twice. We've been over 260 rounds in a day twice by the end of May. And at Patterson Lake, our visitation, our entrance calculations have tripled from what they were, again, at the same time a year ago. So the facilities that we're able to show you numbers and statistics, we can show you that our numbers are going through the roof. But like I said, also those random facilities, the band shell area, the disc golf courses, as you drive around at night, we're seeing record numbers of people utilizing those facilities. And all that is tied to, again, something we talk about, quality of place and quality of life. And you think back 8 years ago as we were trying to construct a community center, at that time we were talking about quality of life and quality of place as there was out-migration concerns, and that's what we thought we needed to enhance to keep people in town and attract new people. Obviously, things have changed in our community, but we still feel that quality of place and quality of life is vitally still important in our community as we go forward. There's all sorts of services that make up quality of place. There's city services, there's medical, there's educational. Those components residents come to expect. But there's the component of Parks and Recreation that in some communities is very good and in other communities it is not. And we want to be one of those communities where Parks and Recreation is one of the key components of expected services. So as we go forward, I guess I'd like to just update you on one other expansion or major project before we get into the application. There is a group of citizens, and their committee is called the West River Expansion Committee. And they are working on, and that is one of the handouts that I gave you. It's a group of 7 citizens as well as some elected officials. And the groups that they represent are the City of Dickinson, Dickinson Hockey Club, Western Edge Pool Committee, Dickinson Baseball Club, Dickinson Parks and Recreation, as well as at-large citizens. And the projects that they are working on are an outdoor pool, which started the original group, an expansion to the Recreation Center, and also an expansion to the West River Community Center. So they are just getting kind of their feet on the ground, and they're starting to go out and do fundraising and do some educational components of their process. So I wanted to at least let you know that is in the works, and we will be moving forward with those things.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
The West River Expansion Committee, and then I think the outdoor pool, that's pretty self-explanatory. That would be the recreation pool adjacent to the West River Community Center. When you say the recreation center expanding, really, what are you looking at there? Is that more ice, or what is that?
That is the building directly across from the community center, and it is from middle of October through March, it's indoor ice, and then the rest of the year, it's used for home shows, car shows, private rentals, and the main component would be a second sheet of ice so that their growing program can handle the number of kids. They're up over 300 kids in the program, double of what they were when we started to get that building initiated. And also just the events that are in there, from the circus to the home show, they need additional space. And so that would double the amount of space in the rec center.
So that additional sheet of ice wouldn't necessarily be year-round ice?
Correct.
So that
their main goal is to enhance their program from the middle of October through March, not to start something new in the summer, but it potentially could have that opportunity.
And then you mentioned the huge growth we've seen in membership at the West River Community Center and the usage, so you're looking at possibly expanding the community center then?
Correct.
And can you just talk a little bit about, in general, what you think some of the components of that expansion are?
Yep, the areas that we've identified right now as our immediate needs would be additional gym space, additional fitness space, which would be cardio, fitness machines, weight machines, and then also group fitness rooms. Right now, the rooms that we have upstairs, the largest one it handles about 25 people in a class. We now have moved them down to the MAC gym, and last week alone we had a Zumba class with 68 people who showed up for that class. Well, they don't even fit into the MAC gym anymore. So we need additional space just to accommodate those people who are looking for those basic services. The pool area, I think the indoor pool area is holding its own. The tennis area is doing fine. But just the wellness, the health and wellness areas of general fitness workouts.
So you're looking at all three of these projects really as one project then?
Correct.
From a management perspective?
Correct.
Okay.
Some of the other projects, again, the spreadsheet that you were given today gives projects from 2012, 2013, which are part of the application, and some even beyond. As far as current projects that the Park District is working on right now, we have renovated the teen center. The facility was not in use. It was very run down. We went in, you can tell on the slides here, basically gutted the interior of it and changed kind of the flow of the building, and it's a facility that we feel is very important to our ability to rent space, whether it's a small group reunion, a family reunion, business meetings, retreat. We tie it into the golf course, so if we want to do a golf retreat. So we're already starting to see that facility get very heavy use.
It's not functioning as a teen center then? You just...
It is not. The teen center dissolved probably about 5 years ago, and it sat empty for 3 years. And then this winter is when we went in and made the changes. As far as other current projects, Southside Baseball Park, this was a great community project. If you've had an opportunity to go down and look at that, $275,000 project, of which $200,000 of that was donated by Astoria Hotel, $55,000 from the city, and the baseball field now is probably the envy of every community in North Dakota. It's absolutely a gorgeous, gorgeous addition to the baseball park. Other projects that we continue to work on, office expansion at the community center, some golf course pro shop issues, some additional trails, as well as a dog park expansion. As far as the 2013 projects that are included in the application, developing new parks. We have 3 new parks that we'll be developing. One is in conjunction with the Dickinson Public Schools at the new elementary school up north, and 2 others, one is on the northwest side of town, the other is on the northeast side of town. Both of those parks are land that the Park District currently has, and it's been undeveloped, and we will be developing them into usable neighborhood parks. The softball complex we have 6 fields down there. We have grown our adult program to the point where we are basically maxed out. We cannot take any more adult softball teams. 3 of the fields are lit, and we would like to light 1 field in 2013 and the rest in 2014, so that we can maximize the use of those fields before we start investing in constructing new facilities. The band shell is another project that has been discussed. We've been working with the Veterans Memorial Group, and in this proposal, there's $100,000 that we would like to use to assist in the starting of that project, basically in the removal of the north pool, as well as for the planning and design of a new band shell. The Veterans Memorial Group is moving forward, and they do have plans to begin their Veterans Memorial this year. We would come back in 2014, and then once the Veterans Memorial is in place and the pool is out and everything is designed, we would construct a new band shell. Other projects include the Heart River Golf Course Service Bridge. This is a vital component to the golf course, as well as other components with the dam and the Baskerville gates. It is the only bridge that trucks and heavy equipment can cross, and right now they are not able to. We have to literally drive all of the equipment around State Avenue all the way around the golf course rather than cutting from the bottom 9 to the top 9. The baseball parking lot that used to be a hockey rink was recently dismantled, and we hope to construct a new parking lot so that we can eliminate as much on-street parking as we can. Our baseball park is located in a very heavy residential area on the south side of town, and we rely very heavily on street parking for the people who attend the games, and additional off-street parking where the parking lot would be very beneficial. Also, trails and infrastructure. I think what we're going to hear from the KLJ study, and one of the highest ranked components within Parks and Recreation is going to be trails and the expansion of shared path trails. We think it's going to be vitally important that we work on that master plan and make some of the connections to our facilities, as well as expand new trails. One of the areas that is frequently discussed is Patterson Lake. How can we get out to Patterson Lake with a trail, and how can we enhance Patterson Lake with a much longer trail? And I think all those things are going to play into those discussions. Most importantly, probably just basic infrastructural needs. The Park District has numerous parking lots, access roads, trails that are really starting to deteriorate. A lot of our parking lots and our access roads aren't even asphalt, they're just chip seal, so it's just years and years of tar and gravel. And as that breaks up, we're really starting to see some issues, as you can see in some of these pictures, as well as our restrooms in some of the parks. They are 50, 60 years plus in their original restrooms, and with the added use, we obviously need to go in and update those restrooms. There's also some additional projects as we look forward into 2014, 2015 and beyond, but really this is changing so rapidly. We do not have costs and priorities identified for the future years. We do know that there are some things that we just absolutely have to address. Our 2013 application to the city, the total projects are $1,135,000. Park District's dedicated funds to those projects are $555,000, and the application request is for $580,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the application or any of the projects that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. On the band shell veterans, or let's say the Veterans Memorial, they were here earlier and requested $100,000. Are you you're requesting $30,000 if you're applying $70,000 towards 100? Is that, have you two doubled up, or?
Theirs is for the Veterans Memorial specifically. Ours is for the removal of the outdoor pool and the planning for the future band shell.
Preparing the site. And then you mentioned I think you said the creation or the building of a new band shell. Has that decision been made then that there wouldn't be an attempt to renovate the existing one, but maybe replace it?
We have not studied that far down the road with the structural engineer or anybody of that nature to determine what the best route is. Obviously, there is a renovation component, and maybe there is a completely new facility part of this project. Both of those are on the table, and I think that's part of the funds that we need, is to get some expert advice on what's best for that facility.
Okay. Other questions or comments here?
I'll make a comment first. You know, with everything we're going through as a city right now, obviously it's important that we have water and sewer that's adequate and streets that are adequate and police protection, and we'll work on that and we'll hopefully accomplish all that we need to accomplish. But nobody sees the sewer pipes that are left underground and, you know, probably appreciates what goes into all that. I think this is what people see and appreciate in the quality of a community. And I'm really glad to see some of these projects happening. I'm glad to see that you guys are being aggressive with this. I hope you're even more aggressive with it. I really think this is important for future quality of life in our community. Having said that, $580,000, James, I see no fundraising. You're not anticipating any fundraising for any of this?
Not for these projects on this 2013 application. I think as we move forward and we get into band shell construction, North Complex, Mustang baseball, yes, I do.
Because I expect some of these things that are on the list would appeal to donors who want to be part of this community's quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, just a comment that way, I guess. No other questions. I hope you keep in mind just open space and all of that. I realize it brings some maintenance issues with it and all. I was in Denver last week and had a chance to be at a park that was an open space that I can't even tell you how big it was. It was probably 1,500 feet by 800 feet. It was a huge space, just grass. That's all it was. And there were probably 40 or 50 volleyball nets set up, families, picnics. It was a great thing. Just a great sight to see, it really was. But good job, and I think this is good.
Can you give us an update on some of the abandoned tennis courts that we have throughout the community? I know we had some issues with that years ago, and where we're at long-term with that?
Sure. We have, the Park District has 3 outdoor tennis court sites that we operate. One is at Optimus Park, one is at Eagles Park. Those 2 continue to be maintained, resurfaced probably within the last 5 years, probably will need to be again in 3 years. The courts on the east side, they are the only ones left that are pavement. The other ones are concrete. We have pretty much lost complete control of those. And in speaking with some of the neighbors and some of the people in that area, we feel those will be removed. It'll be leveled and it'll just be put to green space. The construction of the 2 indoor courts at the community center has really changed the components of tennis in our community. Most avid tennis players prefer to play inside, and the use of the outdoor courts is much less than what it used to be. As we grow, yes, I do see the need for some additional outdoor tennis courts and obviously continued maintenance, but the 2 on the east side are the 2 I believe you're referring to that are about completely lost.
Right.
You spoke of new park developments, one in the northwest, one in the northeast. Can you give us a sense of what you're thinking about in terms of what we would find in those parks when they were complete?
Yep, the northeast one would be right off of Gum Avenue, actually drives right into that park. It's a dead end. It's on the west side of 10th Avenue East, right before you go over the I-94 overpass on 10th Avenue, right to your left. That would be a upsized neighborhood park. You'd have a playground, you'd have picnic shelters, parking lot. That one is big enough to where possibly you could have a shared use path, walking path. That is very easily connected to our master trails plan, and with the route over the overpass on 10th Avenue is a very nice fit. The other park is right across the street from Century Apartments. We were in discussions with the city earlier about a potential fire station there. That would be a much smaller neighborhood park with maybe a play structure and a much smaller shelter. The school obviously is about 4 to 5 blocks north of that area, but we are very light in park property northwest and northeast in Dickinson, and extremely light east Painted Canyon development. That area, we're extremely light on property and hoping that we can get something there.
Your $320,000 infrastructure update, I know you're going to put $160,000 towards that yourself, but I think it would be helpful for the city if, as a follow-up to this meeting, you could maybe give us 3 or 4 major items that would be funded there. It makes it, the type of project makes a difference to the city in terms of the source of its funds if it looks favorably upon your request. So if you could just highlight, like you said, 3 or 4 of the major items that you would see the city funding here.
Sure.
Yeah, I think this is important too, with all of the increased membership and usage. It's important for the public to know you've also seen an increase in your revenue stream, and operating in the red, the black. How are things going on?
Both of those facilities, golf course and community center, are operating in the black.
Perfect.
Yep. In Parks and Recreation, it's those other components. It's those parks and tennis courts where they don't generate revenue. They're just something that you know your community needs, and those are the areas that we can handle, but it would be tax dollars related, and it would be a much longer time frame to accomplish a lot of these projects.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kramer, would it be fair to say the West River Community Center and the golf course, while they operate in the black, that means they cover their day-to-day operation expenses, they cover kind of routine maintenance, but then for the larger maintenance items, you would have to look to the city or other sources of funds to cover those, and that, for example, the service bridge replacement, or if we had to re-roof the community center, the operations wouldn't cover major maintenance items like that.
Correct. That's a fair statement. They cover the day-to-day operations with a little reserve, but nothing to replace bridges or roofs, no long-term major.
Right, but your day-to-day maintenance items, it covers those things too. And
correct.
Yeah. Other comments or questions? I'm glad you only show up once a year.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? Well, that completes Mr. LaFleur, since you're president of the park board. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, the only thing that I would add is, well, first of all, James did a great job in covering it. And what you were talking about is that the golf course and the community center do cover operations and maintenance, but the capital needs, when you talk about a maintenance building at the golf course, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's why we come to you for those components. And as James said, there's a lot of things that do not raise revenue that the park district could use assistance, and this would definitely help us in that direction.
Okay. Oh, one other thing, with the, you know, the major project that you're looking at over, let's just call it at the West River Community Center campus, there, I assume that expansion committee would also have a private fundraising aspect to it too, that you would be trying to raise some private
Yes.
funds towards that overall project.
Absolutely. And as James alluded to, that committee's just getting up and running, and the recreation center expansion included basically a group of hockey boosters that got this going. So they were already discussing that, and we've already been in the midst of fundraising for the outdoor pool. So yes, there's going to be we think, a fairly huge fundraising component to that project. But we'll be able to give you more information as time goes on as to what the breakdowns will be.
Great, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, with that, we have completed our agenda, so the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.